So welcome back to room 1-on-1 for the Homeboys. This is our first for a wee while. So the league is put to the side for a wee week and we look to try and retain the Scottish Cup and a visit Hampden to play Aberdeen. So to help us to look at our opponents, I am delighted to welcome Gavin J Baxter, co-host of the ABZ Football Podcast, on the show to educate us all. Well, Gavin, how do I find you, pal?
Yeah, thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much for having me. You find me somewhere mood-wise, somewhere in between a Rangers fan who's just seen them chuck the league they won a week earlier, and between a Dundee fan who thinks finishing in the top six of the Scottish Premiership is just the best thing that's ever happened.
Nice to see you, mate. You've got the gun out there ready. You're just shooting everybody there.
When you're in a foxhole, you try and bring as many boys with you.
Definitely. I've been that soldier. So we got a tradition on the show anyway. For people who are the first time on the show, I like them to tell us a wee bit about themselves. So tell us, who's Gavin? Why does he support Aberdeen?
So Gary, that you've had from our show in the past, he's my older brother.
Right.
So I'm 4 years younger than Gary is. 87 I was born. So fair to say I've missed all of the glory days of Aberdeen FC's history. I mean, truth be told, I've said this before, like even when we won the Coca-Cola Cup in 1995, I was more concerned about the fact that Newcastle United were opening up a 12-point gap over Manchester United in the English Premier League. Because let's be honest, I was a little wee glory hunter and Man United were my team, so didn't even take that into consideration. When Aberdeen clicked for me was actually a game with yourselves at Pataudry under Alex Miller, where we won 3-2 and Reggie Blinker scored the most sensational own goal. And Celtic won three penalty kicks.
3-2. Did we miss two penalties?
Two penalties, yes.
Oh, I was in Benidorm I was 18-year-old and I was telling everybody who would listen to me that Celtic were the greatest team in the world. And what was the name of the big set? Was it Perry scored a peach? Would have been
Mark Perry, right back.
Was it Mark Perry? Aye, scored an absolute screamer. Aye, God.
He scored a peach. Reggie Blinker scored a header past his own keeper from about 20 yards, and then Craig Hignett scored the most amazing around the keeper goal. And then you got two penalties. Craig barely missed one. I think Simon Donnelly missed
it, and then we got another one. And Larson scored it.
I mean, for whatever you give. At the third time asking to say, let's give Larson a penalty. Yeah.
Aye. This genuine superstar we've got.
Yeah. This no-hoper. And and then got a season ticket off the back of then beating yourselves once more 2-0 in the snow in a December game that you may remember, where Robbie Winter scored a penalty and Darren Mackey got the ball off Rab Douglas, because what was Rab Douglas doing? And smashed into the back of the net from a yard out. And that's, since then I've had a season ticket, been through a lot in that time, to say the very, very least.
It's fair to say you're not a glory hunter then, eh?
No, and you know what? Man United are in the rear view mirror now. There is no danger I'm supporting that shower of shite anymore. And yes, so I mean, fast forward to kind of present day, we started the podcast in kind of lockdown times as, truth be told, a means just to stay in contact. When we couldn't go to the football games anymore, and it's kind of taken on a little bit of a life of its own since then. But so long-suffering Aberdeen fan. That's who I am.
In fairness, I mean, I don't listen to every week. Generally, when you do your review of the Celtic games, I tune in, and I am a very much a fan. I like your attitudes. I like the way you deal with it. I think it's a very good podcast. I would recommend everybody, if you're doing the same, I would recommend everybody give it a go.
And your audience will love the preview for the semi-final today, because to say that we are despondent would be an understatement.
Well, we'll come to that in a minute, right? So, before we look at the game this weekend, I want to have a wee look at Aberdeen, and I would hope you would kind of give me the goings on this season, right? Because there is a few things that have happened that I'm interested in. There's a few things that I'm sure everybody's interested in. I think you know what I'm talking about. So I'll fly through the kind of basics, and then I'll get your opinion as we go, right? Sure. So the season kicked off. Former intern manager, we'll come back to that word, intern manager. Barry Robson, fresh after being appointed the previous May, oversaw the pre-season. Now, there wasn't a big as outlay as the previous pre-season under Goodwin. However, it's still a decent amount of money spent in relative terms of Scottish football, but that was somewhat offset by Ross McCrory's sale.
Yes.
Despite a run to the League Cup final, some decent European Conference League performances league-wise, it wasn't great fun for the Dons. During Robson's time, the team played 21 league games, 6 wins, including a 3-1 humping the Rangers at Ibrox, 6 draws and 9 losses, 24 goals scored, 29 conceded, goal difference -5, 24 points on board, sitting in 8th, 2 off of Hibs, 3 ahead of Motherwell. So, like I say, the team kind of dragged itself to the League Cup final, but 1 goal was enough to keep the cup in Glasgow. Handballs don't matter. In Europe, a 5-3 reverse from Häcken saw the Dandies drop into conference, and you were paired with Eintracht Frankfurt, HJK, Helsinki, and PAOK. 1-1, 3 draws, 2 defeats saw them exit the group in 3rd place, 3 points off Frankfurt, and a further 10 off of PAOK. That meant after the midweek draw with Dundee at home on the 31st of January 2024, Robson was relieved of his duties. Now, can you give me your thoughts on appointing him, his summer transfer dealings, his football, and in general, the time under him? And was it right to sack?
So, Barry Robson, first things first, I would say that I was in favour of giving Robson the job, even before we went on the kind of run that we had under him, because, and I think you'll get this, sometimes you have a feeling with a player that you just have this thinking that this guy's going to go on and become a very good manager, and I always felt that with Barry Robson for whatever reason. And when he came in, he was given a little bit of support by the club, brought in a few key transfers, namely Matty Pollock from Watford, and Angus MacDonald from Swindon Town, I think, on a free transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in and found a way to make Aberdeen difficult to score against, difficult to play, and he got the best in that spell out of Duke and Boyemiowski especially, and Leighton Clarkson playing in behind. And it came to a point where, I can't remember exactly when he was made permanent manager, but I think we beat Rangers 2-0 at Dodgery. Scales and Boyemiowski scoring against them, and it was impossible to give it to anyone else. I think there's even rumours that perhaps even the new manager that we're about to appoint turned the job down on the basis that he didn't want to come in and be the manager, and if it doesn't start off really well, everyone's going to point to Barry Robson and say, well, why did they not give the job to this guy?
Wow, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
So, and we finished 3rd through an unbelievable run of form. And in no small part, thanks to Hearts under Stephen Naismith and Robbie Nielsen just absolutely losing the plot. And there was so much good feeling around the club at the end of last season. And in the summer, it's record season ticket sales, record shirt sales. The fans had done their part, and you're excited about some of the recruitment. I mean, bringing Leighton Clarkson from Liverpool on a permanent transfer. We haven't seen the best of Leighton this season. I think that's in no small part due to the way we've played. I still think that if Celtic or Rangers bought Leighton Clarkson, he'd be one of the standout players in the league. And then, you back that up with Rhys Williams from Liverpool. Very exciting transfer. Hoping will replicate the success of Leighton Clarkson. More on that to come. And we keep Boyemiowski, and we keep Duke, who we were all quite concerned about losing. McCrory did leave, as you say, £2 million to Bristol City, which I think was, I think we undervalued him, but I think that was a contractual thing more than anything else. And towards the end of the summer, we did also lose Ilber Ramadani to Lecce for £1 million. And Ilber was a constant in our team last season and did great work with Leighton Clarkson in helping showcase the abilities of Leighton Clarkson. So he was not replaced as such. And then you kind of go through recruitment. I mean, like Nicky Devlin from Livingston, a very solid 6 out of 10
Scottish player, yeah.
Right fullback. Jamie McGrath came in at the 3rd time of asking. to Aberdeen after having rejected us twice already, and he's done incredibly well. And then you just start thinking about like Rubezic comes in, Richard Jansen, Stefan Gartenman. There's a lot of good things, a lot of exciting things happening, but even in the summer, you started to think that some of it was happening a little bit too late in the day. And when I talk about that, I think about the fact that when we played yourselves in our first home game of the season, we started that game with a back three of Nicky Devlin, Slobodan Rubezic, and Jack McKenzie. So that's two fullbacks and a pretty raw, unexperienced centre half in there. And then you've got Shaden Morris and Ryan Duncan in the wingback positions. And that was the same story against Häcken. We changed a little bit for the home tie, but you get the sense at that point that we were ill prepared for the season ahead. Even at that early stage, Rhys Williams, there's chat about what's going on with him. Ordadia, Israeli international, comes in. Immediately, there's chat about, what's going on here? Because this guy looks a little bit hopeless. And obviously, Rhys Williams and Ordadia never played for us and were sent packing in January. We obviously were desperate to get Liam Scales back.
Yeah.
And the rumour and the innuendo was always there this summer.
That was a massive part of my chat with Gary. And prior to that game was because both of us, there was a general acceptance across the pod that Scales will be up with you soon enough. You know what I mean? I don't think anyone envisaged them having a season. I mean, there is a wee bit of backlash on them just now, but in relative terms, it just shows you though, doesn't it, that a guy can go to Aberdeen and perform, and then doesn't that I mean, how was Scales last year for you? Would there have been somebody that you would have? Yeah, he's the answer. Or
if Robson was as adamant about sticking to the back three as he turned out to be, then Liam Scales at the left side of that is perfect. Absolutely perfect. He was exceptional when Robson came and went into that shape. When it was a back four and he was him partnering Anthony Stewart, unconvincing. Personally speaking, I always thought when you guys hired Brendan Rodgers back that Scales fit the mold of a Brendan Rodgers defender.
Right, okay.
And I was just like, we need to have strength in our conviction as a club with our recruitment strategy and our recruitment team that if by this date Liam Scales is not in the door, then we move on to plan B.
Yeah.
And it's that thing that we waited and dithered over this for so long, and then Richard Jansen came in eventually, and you start to wonder, did we miss out on plan B or plan C because of how long we waited for Celtic to do us the favour of giving us back Liam Scales again? And I think the same thing happened with Matty Pollock from Watford, hence Stefan Gartman coming in very late. So it's just a story. That Häcken, two ties with Häcken in some ways a microcosm of our season, in that we were just ill-prepared and we went into the game with the wrong strategy, given the players that we did have available to us. And then even with all that being said, sloppy goals being conceded, but we had great chances. Duke has two great chances in both games, and Miovski has a great chance at home. And at the critical moments, we just haven't performed the way we should do.
Do you think, right, because it's mad that you are saying that about the Häcken game, because I remember, I'm trying to think if I watched them, I wasn't overly impressed with Häcken, but I think your bro says, they're actually a decent team. But it was Celtic, for a history of getting into qualifiers, underprepared. So like year after year after year, and we'd end up getting put out as some of the drivel of Europe would put us out because we were so underprepared. So I can get your frustration about it. Going back to the Scales thing slightly, would you have pushed the boat out to maybe make them up? Because as I remember at the time, you were arguing basically about 200, 300 grand, weren't we? We were looking at about £1 million for the guy. And is Paul Bernard still your guy?
Paul Bernard is definitely still our guy, yes.
So
there was a lot of conjecture if Leighton Clarkson was our guy, but trust me, with our chairman, if we'd broken the transfer record, we would let you guys all know about it.
Right, okay. No, it's so I definitely feel, I mean, because I do this podcast and I do look at these guys, as you say, Leighton Clarkson was always somebody impressed me. Miovski, the fact that he kept Miovski and Duke over the summer, especially when Celtic fans were crying out for him, latterly so in the last window. It was mad when I done my preview for the last one at the start of the season. See, when I was looking at the stats and I realised that Miovski had scored as many as Duke and he more assists than Duke, I was like, fucking hell, because Duke gets all the headlines last season, didn't he? He was a man.
Yeah.
But then I was going, this guy Miovski's definitely grabbed it this season. But it's just like you're saying, guys like Richard Jensen, 500 grand. I don't really know him. I know that the Rubizics, I think you called him Raw. I think Raw is a nice way of saying that. That boy's mental, man. Every time I see all the European games, a big cackle, boom. He's and Jamie McGrath's a great player, an absolute great player. So he is somebody you would enjoy watching.
Yeah, I mean, I was skeptical of Jamie McGrath. I think that's probably just the fickle, bitter Aberdeen fan in me who sees a player reject my club twice and think,
100%,
well, fuck you then, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you as hard a time as possible.
That's a better football fan, and I feel it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and he came in, and even the first Hecken game, he came off the bench and made a difference. It's like, oh right, okay, this might be okay. I might have to revise my opinion. And he's come up. He's got a lot more about him than I thought he did. Because I did think for a longest time that he was billed as being a goal-scoring midfielder, but his stats were heavily padded out with penalties. So, like, is he really a box-to-box goal-scoring midfielder? And in Europe, especially like away from home against PAOK and Frankfurt, he showed a lot more willingness to fight and a lot more running power than I thought he ever had. And he's scored about 10 goals now for us. With no penalties. So he's been he's been by far and away the standout piece of business, given he was a free transfer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right, so let's put all that together. And so why did it go wrong? I mean, what was the thing? Because like as I say, I watched the European games, every ones I could, and there was an element of unlucky at times. There was a definite element of what the fuck are you doing kind of times. However, even going and beating Frankfurt the last game, I know ultimately didn't matter. It kind of showed Aberdeen still had something. And I think the European games weren't too bad. But league-wise, even when I just sit and look at it anew, and if you look on something on Wikipedia and it's all the different colours, and there's not that many greens in there, do you know what I mean? So I mean, is that basically where it came from? League-wise, it just wasn't good enough.
I mean, we definitely struggled with Europe. So Thursday to Sunday, which most of us do, if we're being honest about it, unless Celtic are playing Aberdeen the weekend after, which case you just typically fucking smash us. So that was a factor for sure. I mean, then just you think about, like, as I said, like Ordadia, Rhys Williams are guys who are brought in. They never ever feature. We spent, I mean, you talked about should we have pushed the boat out for Liam Scales? I would tend to say yes, especially given that we spent, again, it's always undisclosed transfer fees, but we spent a significant chunk of change on Happy Habib Gay and Esther Sokler to become third and fourth choice strikers at Aberdeen. Esther's done okay whenever I've seen him. Papi Gay is one of the most hopeless footballers I've ever seen in my life. And it tells you what's happened, that he's been punted out on loan to Kristiansand in Norway. So you have that, and just Robson. This is what I find frustrating about Barry Robson, because, and you might be able to back this up as a Celtic fan, when that man was a player, his career was built out of getting the absolute best, the absolute most out of his abilities.
100%.
And he was a winner. So I thought if he can translate first quality into his players and just get the absolute most out of them, which he showed us he could do when he turned us around from a team that were getting beat 11-0 in aggregate by the two Edinburgh sides, sandwiched in with a 1-0 defeat to a 6th-tier Darvel team. Came in, got the most out of us, and put us on an incredible run and gave us the chance to go and play in Europe again. And then you just talk about being a winner. Barry Robson with the back three just felt like it was safety first. not losing was the biggest thing. And he just didn't, it felt like he just didn't have faith in his attacking players. And for me, like, Duke's not had the best season by any means, and Leighton Clarkson had the best season. Bojan Miovski's the best striker in this league. I will stand by that 100%, and he will go on and play at a much higher level than anyone else in this league. But he will not thrive if he's just getting the ball shelled to him time after time after time by Richard Jensen or Stefan Garteman. We don't have the players set up to play that way, but that's the way Barry Robson stuck to it.
Right.
So when you take away the talents that you have in your team, and you can't be disciplined in defense, and you can't cut out stupid mistakes, that's a recipe for disaster. We did well in Europe, as you say. Aberdeen fans, generally speaking, I think look at it as being a missed opportunity, because there was a chance there to beat Helsinki in both games for me. We were 2-0 up against PAOK at home, and PAOK were a very good team. So that would have been some result for a generation of Aberdeen fans who've not seen group stage European football at Pittodrie. But it just came to a point that you just sensed that the players were sticking to the script because they're professional players, but you just wanted them to go rogue at some point and just, take the game into their own hands and say, we're good players. Leighton Clarkson is an exceptional footballer. Dante Polvara has proven to be a very good player in this league. And like I say, Duke, Bojan Miovski are goal scorers in this league, as we've seen, and they're outstanding talents. And they just got increasingly frustrated because Robson just could not shift from this philosophy, if you want to call it, of we're going to be try to be hard to beat whilst giving away goals like anything. And our game plan is just a long ball. Leighton Clarkson did not sign on a 4-year contract from Liverpool to watch the ball be shelled over his head and then come back the other way. So Robson just did not play to his strengths, and he just was too stubborn to come away from it. And it got to the point where, I don't know exactly what my point was where I said this is just not going to work. And then to top it all off, when we lose the cup final to Rangers, and your manager comes out and says, well, we don't have the right to come to Glasgow and take the game to these kind of teams. What message does that give you as a fan? What message does it give you as a player in that squad? So yeah, it was just never going to work, unfortunately. And it's really sad because I still think Robson could go on and become a good manager, but this was just not ever going to work.
I don't know. I mean, over the years, having seen intern managers come in, get the reaction because they're not the previous manager, and then basically getting pumped the next year, time and time again. There doesn't seem to be that kind of building up. Like you say with Barry Robson, I mean, there was a point he was talking about before a game against us. He was going, a lot of Celtic fans wouldn't like me. We love Barry Robson. Absolutely loved him. I mean, the set of boys that guy had, and he is a guy that I liked his kind of no-nonsense. But as you said, I listened to that interview after the cup final defeat, and I was like, fuck off.
This isn't Barry Robson.
Could
you imagine what Barry Robson, the player, would think of his manager saying that?
Yeah.
That's what I came away thinking from it. So it's just a complete reversal of his personality as a player.
Like I say, when you look at the results, it is a no-brainer. I mean, there's a fucking shitload of reds in front of my face. Right, so we'll move on there. So Peter Leven was given the job for the next match, intern. A 1-1 draw with Celtic, a much improved performance. It led to believe by yourselves. You were unfortunate not to take all three that day. I was there myself. And then the club, having appointed an intern, appointed another intern.
We need to talk about this.
Yeah, well, this is I think why some people will log in to listen to this. Do you know what I mean? Because so I don't know if you ever listened to the Football Ramble. I
did back in the day, yeah.
I still listen to Football Ramble, and they love Neil Warnock, right?
Of course they do.
Neil Warnock from afar is funny. It was like Gordon Strang. See when Gordon Strang was talking with velocity and all that. It was hilarious. See when he's doing it at your club. It's fucking infuriating. And Neil Warnock rocked up. So this is what I've got, right? Neil Warnock descended on a holiday to Scotland and took a wee side job so he could watch some Rangers games.
Side hustle.
So he was appointed on the 5th of February. He had a month in a gig. He was talking about winning cups and slagging the team before fucking off to where he came from, with the team adding 4 defeats, 2 draws to an already unwanted league record. Should be noted, of course, he oversaw cup wins over Bonnyrigg Rose and Kilmarnock, both at home. And my question to you is, what the fuck?
Right, okay. God, I thought I'd talked about this for the last time.
Sorry to bring it back to you, bro.
Oh no, I went over all of this with Fowler from the Terrace podcast. So I thought that was my therapy for that month. Okay, Neil Warnock. So when Robson was sacked, the chat about Warnock immediately came about via the bookies and via social media. So I had some time to prepare for it. And truth be told, I would love to go full-blown Leveson inquiry and tell you I just don't recall what I thought at the time, but it's still very fresh out there in audio and print format, so I'll be honest for you. I understood the appointment at the time because people were talking about how we should have just given it to Leven for the end of the season and see things out until we get the new manager in. For me, at that point, like I think 3rd place was still, if not 3rd place, 4th place was still attainable. And we still have the Scottish Cup to play for. So there's a lot going on there. And I thought that bringing in a manager who has a track record of improving a club's results in a very short space of time, in the way Warnock has done, in fairness to him, especially with Rotherham and with Huddersfield Town in recent seasons, I could understand that. And the fact that he has spoken so reverentially about Scottish football in the past makes me think that he will have done his research. He'll know what he's going to come here and work with. And if he can just get these players performing and believing themselves again, then who knows what might happen. And then he arrived.
Okay, well, I'm sold.
And then he arrived.
You've just said that to me. I'm sold. So what did you get?
Well, this is the thing when you're, especially, man, you might know this as well, when you're a podcaster, like you don't want to be seen as being overly negative from the very outset.
100%.
But when he came in and his first prep, I was going to watch it again, but I thought for the sake of my mental health, I'll just try and recall it from memory. In his very first press conference, he comes in and talks about how, because the chat is that he was meant to come in the week later, but he wanted to come and be manager of us for this game because it's Rangers at Ibrox. And he starts talking about how he can't pass up the chance to manage at Ibrox and go and be part of that atmosphere. Oh my God, what a club they are. Oh my jeez. And Aberdeen fans get a lot of stick for us being obsessed with Rangers. And you know what? 1 or 2 of us are. But we don't really care for it when our manager comes along and starts talking about them as if they're the best thing since sliced bread. So that was a nagging feeling from the very word go. And against Rangers, we put in a decent performance, but nothing I would not have expected from either Robson or Peter Leven, because we set up against teams like that away from home, especially in Europe, and we're undone by, of course, again, 2 goalkeeping errors. So shot caller. And Warnock comes out and he's talking about how this is his kind of team, this is his kind of group of lads. And like you say, results just go to shit straight away. And that's when he starts changing his tune. Suddenly, this is not his type of players. And Bojan Miovski, who he's singled out as being the best striker he's ever worked with, is now responsible for us losing to Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. All kinds of chatter in the Aberdeen area around Kilmarnock Park about what the environment was like with Neil Warnock and his assistant, whose name escapes me right now. Toxic, absolutely toxic. And
in that short space of time, fuck me.
In that short, roughly 30 days, it felt like an eternity. But, and I remember, we'll all remember the Motherwell game where we were 3-0 down after 29 minutes. And this motherfucker is playing Jamie McGrath at left wing back. He did not give a shit. And he'd obviously done no research on what he had to work with at Aberdeen. This was just a jolly. And when you then find out that on top of that, he's doing the job part-time. Like, I do not want to be owner of any football club. It looks like a pretty lonely existence. But if I was the owner of Aberdeen FC, I'm pretty sure one thing I would insist upon my manager is you need to do the job full-time. Seems quite simple to me. Gone. Who's gone from Sunday to Wednesday, would reappear Thursday, Friday, Saturday for game time, and little things that I could go on and on and on about Neil Warnock, but we don't have enough time for it. And it's kind of ironic in a way that the writing was on the wall. We were going to get rid of him if we'd lost to Kilmarnock in the Scottish Cup, and I think he'd seen that, and he told the players after this game, "I'm away." And suddenly, then the players suddenly feel a little bit like, liberated, and go out and put in a half-decent performance. And, of course, this guy then goes and hogs all the glory and throws the board under the bus with his post-match comments.
Right.
An absolute weapon, an embarrassment that he was ever associated with our club.
Aye. And Scottish football, to be honest.
And Scottish football.
Right, I'm not going to linger on that because listening to you actually just fucking annoyed me there. No, I mean, what an absolute fucking gobshite, man. Because I remember that fucking the pre-Rangers thing, and I was sitting going, "You shitting me, man? You shitting me?" Right, anyway, so Peter Levin returned as the new old intern, and has since led the team to 1 defeat, 2 wins and 2 draws, meaning that Aberdeen, rather than pushing for the top half, now sit in 9th place. 33 games played, 8 wins, 11 draws, 14 defeats, 35 goals scored. That's 11 in 12 games since Barry Robson left. 49 goals conceded, so a minus 14 goal difference, 35 points on board, 4 ahead of Ross County in the playoff place, and 2 behind Motherwell 8. Now, the chat is that Jimmy Thelin, right, totally rang both my chances there. Right, the chat is that Jimmy Thelin, the current manager of Elfsborg in Sweden, will have appointed the new manager this week or next. Manager since 2018, he'd led them to 12, 8, 2nd, 4th, 6th, and last season 2nd in the Allsvenskan League, the Swedish top flight. Elfsborg season only recently started, and after 2 games, a draw and a win leaves them mid-table. Now, from you guys' own X account, I seen that the reason for the delay is that BPTC, a German company who are used to review the football operations at the club, have some connections with Alborg, whose manager is headed up to replace your man at Elfsborg. Now, so I have got about a 3-pronged question here, right? Who the fuck are BPTC, right? So I've got that first. Second of all, I presume you've done a fair bit of digging about the new man. I mean, you guys are on the ball, so I presume that you kind of, what's your thoughts on that, and when are you looking at this thing happening?
So first things first, and it is a convoluted situation that we found ourselves in here for sure. So BPTC, oh, absolutely. So I think in some ways you have to go back about 3 years down the line. So when Aberdeen parted ways with Derek McInnes and decided to go down the sort of more modern continental approach with heads of recruitments and directors of football and etc., BPTC are probably the company we should have looked at that time to come in and consult on how to transition from the model we had previously to the model that we were aspiring to now. So they've come in since Robson was sacked to just do a complete overhaul and over-review of the entire football operation. And Alan Burrows has communicated that they've identified that we need to bring in a technical director to work underneath the director of football, and that they would also assist in finding the new manager. That it would appear to be Thelin of Elfsborg, who we have previously been linked with in the past. So I hope they're not getting a finder's fee for this one. And then yes, so the it is complicated. It is very complicated. But this company also have a controlling stake in Danish second division club Aalborg, who so their manager has been identified as being the replacement for Jimmy Thelin when he parts ways. As soon as Aalborg confirm promotion to the Danish top flight.
Right, okay.
Which could happen on Sunday if they win their game. So it's just basically a story of just getting all your ducks in a row.
It's like buying a house here, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, yes. There's so many mechanisms in place here before Elfsborg will then release Jimmy Thelin to come to Aberdeen.
Right, okay, that's excellent. Right, but so it's interesting you're talking about as BPTC because I've never heard of them, and I am somebody who has an interest in Scottish football, so I'm very intrigued to see how that unravels in the long term. So, as I say, what is your investigations that led you to think about this fella? Is he the kid? I mean, the open goal guys were slaughtering him, saying he was born in sin, but that doesn't really matter to you, does it? I mean,
no, not at all. I mean, yeah, that's the he's been identified as being the most boring man in Swedish football. His pre and post match interviews are very dry, and he will not comment on anything regarding rumor or speculation or criticizing referees. Although let him have some time in Scottish football, his opinions might change once he gets a look at ourselves. And also bear in mind they don't have VAR in Sweden, so when he gets a look at that,
no. Aye, that's he'll be the first flight home. Fuck this.
May well change for sure. Yeah, I mean, so I think what I would say is just like when Robson was sacked and then Warnock went, and you see the typical list in the bookies of the managers who are available, and you see who Michael Stewart is touting for the job, and they were just the most meh group of managers you could ever imagine. I'm going to trigger a bit of your audience here, but Neil Lennon, absolutely no.
Love it.
I mean, could you... Let's put aside Neil Lennon being a problematic individual. I just don't think he's a very good manager, truth be told. And I mean, people will point to the fact that he won titles with Celtic. So what? I mean, like, you know what? Ronnie Dyler won titles with Celtic. I mean, it's not... unless you're a very, very bad manager, you're going to be in with a chance of doing something with either side of the old firm. And then, mind how I said I used to be a Man United fan. So Norwich City are now my English team.
Right, okay.
And Alex Neil's best days are way behind him
already.
And he's also at that Paul Lambert phase where he still thinks he's too good for Scottish football. So none of that. Who else? Michael O'Neill from Northern Ireland. Like, he had like 4.5 years left on his contract. It would have been an enormous investment for a manager that
is meh. You're right. Yeah,
he's not gonna, especially with Aberdeen, like right where we are, we need a manager who's gonna unite the support, and Michael O'Neill's just not gonna be that guy. And for myself and the people that I speak to, one of the major criteria we were looking for in a new manager was simply having no connections to Scottish football. Or as it even turns out, maybe even no connection to British football. Because what we've learned, and even from, like I say, winners like Barry Robson, is it's just inbuilt in the psyche of where a team like Aberdeen lays, where we belong in the league versus Celtic and Rangers.
I agree with you. Yep.
I remember when we talked with, you might remember, maybe a guy called Carrie Arness who played for Aberdeen for a couple of years. And Carrie spoke to us, and one thing that he could never get his head around was that when we were away from home, we'd be on the bus, the players would be in tracksuits. And when we went to Celtic Park and Ibrox, suddenly they're all dressed up in suits. Really? It's just a little mental thing that just makes it, why are we changing our preparation for these two teams? Why don't we just, hand them 3 points and just call it a day? So for our manager to come in and hopefully have no connections and no preconceived notions of what it is to be Aberdeen and where our place is versus Rangers and Celtic, that's a big part of it for me.
That's a very, very fair comment. Our
only chance of realistically of winning trophies is the Scottish Cup or the League Cup. and we're going to have to beat one of the two of you in all likelihood to do that. And like we say earlier, Barry Robson going down to Hampden, saying we didn't belong there against Rangers. We saw under Derek McInnes a couple of times against Celtic where man marking and just trying to hold you guys at bay, and never ever worked. So I think we just wanted something different as well, like not just from that same managerial merry-go-round of Jack Ross or fucking Monkey Mackay or any number of these risible individuals that you could possibly come up with. So, and the thing about it from Jimmy Thelin's history is that he has a track record of overachieving with his club. And that's obviously going to be a crucial part of being Aberdeen manager and winning trophies, which at the end of the day is all we want to do.
Yeah. I mean, that all sounds fair to me. I mean, I don't know if you remember, St Johnstone deserved a fair bit of credit, as did Motherwell. They went through a good wee spell of appointing guys. Maybe they weren't on a managerial merry-go-round. So they kind of introduced guys like Steve Lomas, Tommy Wright, even Owen Coyle. They brought on these guys, and each of them seemed to hit. And then Motherwell had a spell where they were appointing guys who had no connection to Scottish football, and they brought a freshness in. They didn't have, as you say, they didn't have that broken mentality of, we write that one off, don't worry about that. And I understand, right, as a Celtic fan who looks in Europe and watch us get dwarfed by everybody we play, and you kind of go, you've got a bit of realism. I understand Celtic standing in Scottish football, the amount of money we spend, right? There's got to, that doesn't mean that I don't fucking celebrate every fucking title and cup, like it's because I'm a fan. It's not my fucking fault. But I do look at clubs like Aberdeen, especially since I've been doing these shows, and Aberdeen, with the amount of money at their disposal and the fan base who are just waiting there to be fucking enthused. Aberdeen have not been run well. I think I'm being fair to say it. Hearts have not been run well. Hibs have not been run well. Whereas, I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, before Celtic got doing off them, Aberdeen were talking to Knutson. Would I have been right? Did Aberdeen approach Knutson?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
I mean, and you think, imagine that guy came into Aberdeen. Imagine that. I mean, like, what people always say, Celtic, it's either you or Rangers winning. That's why Celtic fans always want to win, because see, if we don't fucking win, they bastards are getting it. You know what I mean? So you fucking got to scoop it up, because I tell you, we want to win, but see if Aberdeen win it because Aberdeen are better than you, there's a case of, if Rangers win it because they're better than you, for fuck's sake, you know what I mean? So
yeah, Knutson. I think that was I can't remember where that was, but
it's the right idea, isn't it?
We should have gone for him after McInnes.
Yeah.
But instead we went down the route of going for the chairman's mate. So yeah, you talk about a club that's not been run well. Yeah, that is definitely Aberdeen. And the thing about, like, you're right, we've now got the kind of the sugar daddy chairman who has the club at his heart and has the money to invest. And the sad thing, we've invested in players, and we'll pay for that in some ways because a lot of them haven't really worked out and they're on long-term contracts, but that's a different conversation. But we script on the managers. So like I say, like, you know, from Stephen Glass from Atlanta United, who we have to link up with, Jim Goodwin at St Mirren, who just never was never an Aberdeen manager.
Between him didn't seem to work either. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, if you're putting a kind of case in, we're bringing Stephen Glass back. Stephen Glass plays this fast-flowing football. He likes fluid and all that. And then you bring in Jim Goodwin. The correlation isn't there between managers.
Absolutely. And then, you fast forward and you bring in Barry Robson, who decides that we don't need wingers. And Jim Goodwin spent the last summer spending in only wingers, and whoever else there may have been, Boyamiowski, I guess. Yeah, so like, and this is going to be like a test for Aberdeen fans when Jimmy Thelin does come in, is that we're going to need to have some patience with it.
Yeah.
and that's been commented on, because like the transformation from where we are now to the type of team that he wants us to be is going to take some time. That doesn't mean he gets immunity if in 3 months' time we're, fucking rock bottom in the same position we are in now. And we need to see a gradual progress. Yeah. But the problem has been that, like you say, we bring in Glass, this is the new philosophy. And then a year later, we decide this isn't working. So let's bring in Jim Goodwin, who has this philosophy.
Yeah.
And then, and that comes down to the way the club is run. We have a director of football at our club in Stephen Gunn, who would not be a director of football at any other professional club in Scotland. He does not have the nous or the experience or the credibility to run a football operation. And I'm intrigued to see what we do when the technical director comes in, who's meant to report to Stephen Gunn, from my understanding of Alan Burrow's statement. But hopefully we'll kind of just be doing Stephen Gunn's job, having had some experience doing the work at a previous club. And then, like I said, you talk about recruitment. This season it's been a disaster. And last season, we brought in, Shaden Morris on a 4-year contract. Shaden Morris is rubbish. We brought in a guy, Cal Roberts, on a 3-year contract from Notts County. He got released with 2 years left to go. And this kind of story goes on. Vinny Bajewin was brought on a 4.5-year contract. He's out on loan now at Emin.
Was he not a decent player? I actually thought he was sorry.
When he first came in, I liked to look at him a lot. You always get the sense of a player who's come from, especially something like Holland, where technically speaking, with the ball, he's miles apart from anyone else we have. I think there's 2 problems that came up with Vinny, is that he got too interested in getting involved with his opponents and the referee, and trying to use his experience to con and win things that were never there to be won. And there's just always been chat about his attitude and application and training. And Jim Goodwin and Barry Robson saw enough to say, not for us. Maybe Jimmy Thelin will be the kind of manager that will put an arm around his shoulder and say, you know what? I can see what you need to flourish here. He's still got 2 years left on his contract, so there's every chance.
See, the irony of looking at your signings is the fact, though, that you've still got 2 fantastic assets.
Oh yeah.
But now you're at the of 3, should I say, if you fling in Clarkson, and even if you get it right with Jamie McGrath, you could have 4. But then Aberdeen have then kind of got to handle it right. It's not dissimilar to us, because everybody can talk about, look at Celtic, they sold him for 20 million, they sold him for 12 million. What that masks is Celtic wasted 10 million on a big bunch of players that 4 years down the line we ended up paying to go away. So Celtic's transfer is woeful, but it's always masked by that 1 or 2 big sale. And you guys do now, at least you guys have got proper assets. But then it's now, do you sell Miovski for the benefit of the club? But then you're losing. You're trusting that you're replacing him. And if you don't replace him, you know as well as me, you're fucked, don't you?
Well, Papi Gay didn't score yesterday for Chris Jansen, so I'm not banking on him. The thing about it is you're right. When you talk about our big assets, like Clarkson, not now, he'll need a year of great football like he showed in his first spell with us. Duke, has got a year left on his contract. He hasn't had the best season, but I think we can still sell him. And then this is where his ownership comes into question, because it's a little unclear how we got him from Benfica.
Is he the same
we paid for him, or if it's a zero, if it was a free with the agreement being that when we sell him, Benfica get 50%, we get 50%. Miovski will go in the summer, because Bojan Miovski is destined for bigger things than Scottish football. I think he could go to Italy or Spain or France or wherever it may be and do a great job. Also worth mentioning that our previous head of recruitment, who brought Miovski to the club, is now the head of recruitment at Southampton. So interesting to see if they might think of him as someone they could bring in. But yeah, it is a shame that, and I was going to comment before the show, happy to do the news about Lewis Ferguson, who's suffered a cruciate injury.
Saw that.
If he was going to go for the reported money he was going to go for to a Juventus or an AC Milan, then we get a big sell-on fee for that. And the tragedy is that ends up just kind of, like you say, masking the failures of the season, or paying players off, or just kind of that we're not going to be in Europe next season. So it's a shame it's a shame that at this point where we're now making money off our players, it's not translating into more success, better players coming in, because we haven't done that this season. So it'll be a big ask of, and again, I talk about where football club is from. We've now got our third head of recruitment in the 3 years we've been doing this show. So his work is going to be majorly cut out.
Mad. Right, so you kind of gave me a good... We're just on the cusp of talking about the actual game here. I just want one more thing after you were talking about it is, so we're a few years down the line with Dave Cormack, right? And I'm a great fan of these guys coming in and putting money into Scottish football and coming in with fresh opinions, fresh ideas, especially the Americans, because we're so held back with this is how it's done, this is how it used to be. Scottish football needs a fresh approach. It needs a fucking beer at the game, right? That's you know what I mean. It needs that. But we're 3 years down the line, and his time at the club seems to be filled by failure football wise. Is it that off the park? I mean, what's the script of the stadium? Stuff like that. Shit.
My work is where I work is quite close to where the training ground is, which is where the stadium was meant to go. And I work with a couple of lads. One of them's from Romania, one of them's from Latvia, and they will ask me every time we drive past Car Park. They'll ask me what's happening with the new stadium, and I'm just like, guys, we released a centenary DVD in 2003, and Keith Winus, our chief executive at the time, was making clear how imperative, how essential it was that we moved out of Pittodrie as soon as possible. 20 years down the line, we still do not have a site. So what's happening to the stadium? Truth be told, Scott, you tell me.
No idea. No, that's a shame.
We've already declared we don't want to build it in West Hill at Kingsford anymore. So we can't really go back on our word now and say, well, actually, the council have now said we can't build it down by the beach close to where Pittodrie is now. So we're just sort of back to square one.
Right, okay. There you go.
And obviously with every passing day, the cost of a new stadium gets higher and higher and higher, and then the Boyamioski money will get ring-fenced for that. Happy Gale be in the team next season.
Used to talk about that. It says, if you needed a new player, we need to sell the stadium, but anyway, right, okay, this weekend, what we're on to talk about, right? So we've met 3 times in the league this season. 3-1 victory for Celtic at Pittodrie in August.
Yes.
6-0 shellacking at Celtic Park after that. And, of course, that aforementioned 1-1 draw earlier in this season in February. We obviously scoring both the goals for Aberdeen. Right, now, I think the 1-1 game is ultimately the only relevant game, because the first one, the first two were under Barry Robson's, but at least Peter Leven was involved in the 1-1 draw. So, with that game in mind, and then your recent games, this weekend, how are Aberdeen setting up? What personnel? What are they going to try and do? Is it a case of going for them, or are we looking at the 1-1 draw as a standard bearer for what's going to happen?
Right, okay. I know what I've said on our show, but for the sake of your audience, I'm going to be as abrasive as I possibly can.
Great, so, love it.
Clearly, we're going to put the final nail in your Scottish Cup coffin.
Right. Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah, we did play well against you at Pittodrie under Peter Leven. We really did, and I thought we could easily have deserved that win. It was, I think, your lad, is it Kuhn? Is that the boy's name?
Kuhn, yeah.
I think that was the one real chance that Celtic created. We should have defended it better. And it's a fantastic goal from Boyamioski, set up by Daniel Povar's great ball over the top.
It's funny, isn't it, the football fan, that we always look at our own team, because my mate still goes on about how bad a goal that was. I mean, he calls it in the corner. Why is he backing off?
Is that your Polish player whose name I'm going to butcher, Nawrocki? Yeah, that obviously didn't get the memo that Boyemowski's left foot. Truth be, I'm not really sure what we're going to do. I don't think we're going to come up with any major surprises personnel wise. Graham Shinney's unavailable, having gotten booked in the game with Kilmarnock. So the one sort of point of intrigue will be who takes his place, whether it's Danny Polvara or Killian Phillips, who played well against Celtic at Pittodrie as well. But neither of them have featured much since Warnock's been in, and since that Motherwell game especially. I'm sure we'll try and keep it compact, and we'll try and keep a shape and try our best to keep you guys at bay, and probably try and hit you on the break if we can. The thing about taking that game at Pittodrie into context versus a game at Hampden is it's two completely different games.
Yeah,
playing at Pittodrie versus playing on the pitch at Hampden. You'd assume that Celtic will have the lion's share of the ball, and we need to be disciplined and keep our shape and not give you guys any stupid goals, which has been a problem against you guys, not just against you guys, but especially against you guys, to be fair. I'm not exactly sure how we approach it. I feel in some ways I feel like attack is the best form of defense, but I haven't seen enough to suggest that we're going to, dominate possession and overwhelm you guys with our speed down the flanks and create chances galore for Boyemowski. So I think we'll need a lot of good play, a lot of very good disciplined defensive play, and a big, big slice of luck.
Yeah. Looking there, last two games, 0-0. You beat Motherwell 1-0, beat Ross County 2-1, beat Alfie Dundee. So the goals, like I said earlier on, the goals aren't forthcoming if Miovski's no doing it. I would suggest attack is the best form of defence, especially Celtic's defence, because at times we've been all in the shot. But I think it's an interesting game. The Shinnie thing is big because Shinnie manages to fucking upset things. But I don't know. I can just see with Aberdeen all eyes on making sure they don't get dragged into that Ross County place. That's how I look at it now. I hope I'm right, but like the Scottish Cup's actually a pain in the arse, but obviously not for you fans. For you guys.
We've seen some mad takes on, as you say, X, not Twitter, that we should really winning the Scottish Cup would almost be like an inconvenience because we shouldn't be in a position where we're back in Europe next season. We should be like rebuilding. and like, lads, what the fuck? I mean, I've never seen us win the Scottish Cup, and being in Europe's great. What the fuck are you talking about? No, I mean, you've got to go and win this game.
I would expect.
I would hope in some way that we will be aggressive and try and be on the front foot, because I think it's the only way we will win. And I do think that, and Celtic fans will laugh at this, given that you've stuck 10 past us in 3 games. But I think your defense can be got at, and I've seen the teams that have done well against you. Like it's generally been like Kilmarnock and Hearts domestically, and unfortunately, we just don't really have what they have in terms of pace and creativity down the wings and kind of battering ram strikers. So we're gonna have to find our own way of winning this game. But it's a chance at redemption for some of these players and a chance of glory and turning this horror show, this Willy Wonka experience of a season, into something memorable.
Okay, last couple of wee questions here, right? So, are you going to the game?
No.
My
my band are playing in Inverness the night before.
Right, an excuse. I'm happy with that. Why are Aberdeen fans not buying tickets?
Why are Aberdeen fans not buying tickets? I mean, you would have to ask every Aberdeen fan who's chosen not to buy a ticket. But my best guess would be the time it's at, the cost of it, and the season we've had.
Cool. Well, there's. Because I can't believe the amount that keep coming back to your club. You know what I mean? Fucking there, take another one. You're like, fuck's sake. But
I've seen. There was a post lately that we haven't sold out like a single section yet. But I mean, I don't. Aberdeen fans have travelled in huge numbers all across the continent this season, backing their team, and haven't been given the rewards for it. And given the last time we played a Glasgow side in Glasgow, there's not much reason for optimism. And even the most recent results with Livingston, Dundee, even the win against County, we were bad against County. We were quite fortunate to win that game. So there's not been that momentum built to then even give the fans that glimmer of belief. So yeah, I think that's the reason why we're probably going to be quite small in numbers, but we'll be loud in voice.
Fair dues, mate. Right, okay, you're going to give me a prediction.
4-0 Aberdeen.
Love it, love it. Right, my last question to you before we log off. What is your hopes for the summer? This new guy comes in, he wins 5 out of 5 after the split. You're all hopeful. What are you looking for? What are you hoping for? When I speak to you at the start of next season, doing this show, what is your hope for it in the summer?
A big question. Truth be told, and this will come to fruition when the season starts off proper, but I hope I can see evidence of a coherent strategy. If he wants to play 4-3-3, we bring in the players to play a 4-3-3, and we bring in some genuine quality to enhance our better players, because that's what we did not do this summer. And he'll have a big job on his hands, because we'll probably need a new goalkeeper, we'll probably need a new centre midfielder, and we'll probably need wingers and a new striker. So he's got a lot on his plate. But I want to see evidence of a manager who has a plan, has a vision, and is going to execute it, rather than throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, which has kind of been the Aberdeen way for some time now. So yeah, that's pretty much it there.
Lovely. Okay, Gavin J Baxter, thank you very much for taking your time out on this Monday night to speak to me. It's been excellent, mate. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you very much for having me.
Like I say, listen to his show. Now, sell yourself to the world. Where can they find you on social media, on X, and tell us about the pod?
I should probably know what the handle is for X, shouldn't I? So you can find us, if you're a Celtic fan who wants to see a couple of Aberdeen fans just working you online, then you can follow us at ABZ Podcast on X. That's generally speaking where you'll find us social media wise. And as for the podcast, you can find it on all platforms that provide your podcast listening.
Amazing. Thank you very much, mate. Obviously, I hope your team gets absolutely trounced at the weekend. But after that,
likewise,
I genuinely hope you will go and win the 5-year games and your manager hits the ground, and next season you're in a better place.
Me too.
I hope your band does well at the weekend as well. All right, mate.
Cheers, Phil. Nice one.
Thank you very much. See you soon.